now that we've decided when the test is going to be, we can continue. So we are going to miss out Siman Chof Ches. It's not relevant for us. Although we will be referring to bits of it. Hamakadesh, the Siman Chof Ches, the topic is Kiddushin, if you're Makadesh somebody with something that is stolen, or through a loan, or Isurei Hano'ah. It's not on the Rabbanut syllabus, and therefore I'm going to miss it out, although we will be going back and referring to bits of it. So we don't need to do Siman Chof Ches, but we're turning now to Siman Chof Tes.
Did you guys look at the Rabbanut?
I have access to the Rabbanut syllabus.
Yeah.
That's what I'm basing our material on. Okay, primarily. I don't need to reinvent the wheel. This is the Rabbanut syllabus for the. I mean, I'm using this, which is and online I get their syllabus and their tests. They're freely available. Don't worry, I'm not just going to lift their test in case you're thinking. So, here we're going to start a really interesting sugya, which is, so Siman Chof Tes. Let's just read the koteret, the title, the chapter heading. Shetzorich. You got it? Got it there?
I still have, at the end of, I have the copy, not of the news.
Okay. Shetzorich, I'll just read it out while you're doing that. Shetzorich litein hakesef b'matono shleima. That the money that you are giving for the Kiddushin has to be given as an absolute matana, an absolute act of giving. You are being makna, you're not being makna, you're giving it to Hareyat Mekudeshes Li, B'tabazu, and it is hers lachalutin. Yes? Objectively and totally, with no restriction.
As opposed
to things we're going to see. Exactly what we're going to see. No, Mil, but that was last. That was Siman Chof Ches, which we're not learning. Okay. V'din hamakadesh b'mashkoin, being makadesh with a surety. You know what a mashkoin is? An item that you are holding as not as a pikodon, a mashkoin, as a guarantee for a loan. Okay? Oy b'mona v'nimtza choser ra, or you use money and it later turns out to be deficient or bad. And there are 10 seifim. But the first, and probably by far the most interesting sugya, the most interesting topic, which I will introduce now, is as follows. Now, this is a beautiful topic in Lomdus, in Yeshiva Lomdus, and I'm going to try and hold myself back a little bit from not getting overly involved in some of it, but some of it we do need to, and it's beautiful. It's really geschmack. And it is as follows. It is the sugya of matana almanos lahachzir. Matana almanos lahachzir. I give you a gift. It's an absolute gift. There's one teeny weeny little consideration. I'm giving it to you on the express understanding. Almanos, it's condition. The giving is absolute, but it is conditional that you return it to me.
If or not, no if.
No, there's no ifs.
But then
I am giving this to you. It is a matana, it is a gift. There is now it comes in a few flavors. Give me a second. It comes in a few flavors. Almanos. If I say almanos means on the express condition and understanding. It's contingent. Yes? Only on the understanding that you will return it to me. If you don't return it, now you could possibly then specify a time frame. Almanos, the one possibility would be almanos ta'chzirehu li la'achalamad, after 30 days. Within these 30 days, it's absolute, it's a matana, but after 30 days, you have to return it to me. You must give it back to me. Or you have to give it back to me, b'toich lamad, at some point within the next 30 days. You can mess around with this. You can say whatever you want. And so what is this? Now, this has many, many, many implications and applications in many different areas of halacha. To name 4, 5. Sale, a sale, Kiddushin, Pidyon haben, Truma, and Esrog. And this is where, and these are the two places, probably Kiddushin and Lulav and Esrog Dalad Minim, where it becomes the most interesting, because it is one of those mitzvahs where the Torah specifies lochem. Ulekachtem lochem, it has to be yours. It has to be yours. Such that if you borrow somebody's esrog, minat Torah, you borrow their lulav, it's no good. Right? Lekachtem lochem. It has to certainly be Yom Rishon, which is Doiraisa, Minhat Torah. The mitzvah of Arba Minim, the Torah specifies it has to be yours. Borrowed isn't good enough. And then the question is, so what is the halach in all of these different areas? Okay? So let's learn a Gemara. So I'm going to read you out a Gemara, and actually two Gemaras. Maybe I'll print them out for you as well for tomorrow, Bli Neder. The first is a Gemara in Kiddushin Taf Gimel Amud Aleph, where the Gemara discusses the Mishnah, which says that Ha'isha Niknes B'shloisha Durachim, only three ways, right? There's Kesef, Shtar, and Bia. And the Gemara says, why did you have to say B'shloisha Durachim? Just say Isha is Niknes because of Shtar and Bia. I can count. I mean, assuming that the assumption is that somebody who can read and learn Mishnah can count from 1 to 3. Why do you then have to say B'shloisha Durachim? So you're coming Minyono La'afukimai, this number, the count, is coming to exclude something. What does it come to exclude? So the Gemara says it comes to exclude chuppah, which we've dealt with. Chuppah is not a valid method of Kiddushin. Says the Gemara, what about Rav Huna, who says chuppah is a valid method? So then what is the number come to exclude? Says the Gemara, it comes to exclude chalipin. Comes to exclude chalipin. Chalipin, using exchange, which is a valid kinyan. I give you something, and in exchange you grant me, whether it's power of attorney, authority, or you commit yourself to something, right? So like we would do, you can do it for a chayfetz, you can do it, we do it under by ksuba, by chometz. Chalipin is a valid method of or sometimes called kinyan sudar. Sudar meaning a cloth, right? Which we learn from Megillas Rus. So can you be kind of isha b'chalipin? Right? You give her something, and you say, Hariat Mekudesh Esli, and you are Mekadesh yourself to me by me giving you Suda. Kiddush Suda. Says the Gemara, no. According to Rav Huna, who says that Chuppah is Kaina, the number 3 comes to exclude Chalipin. Why? Says the Gemara, because Chalipin isnahu bepochus mishava pruta. When I give you a Sudar, it doesn't have to be Shava Pruta. Chalipin can even be with less than a Shava Pruta. Says the Gemara, Ve'isha b'pochus mishava pruta loy miknaya nafsha. A woman will not demean herself. She won't sell herself, so to speak, cheap, and be prepared to be makna herself. Loy miknaya nafsha. Interesting notion.
Doesn't matter how much she likes me.
It doesn't matter, yeah. Not that it's like we saw in last week. Not that a pruta, is such a big, 20 cents or whatever. But the Chazal, nosnu d'vereim l'shirin. They said a pruta is yes, less than a pruta not. And since Chalipin would work with less than a pruta, Chalipin is not going to work with Kiddushin. Gemara number 1. That's in Daf Gimel. Then we go to Daf Vav, and here we have a Gemara Rava. Rava says as follows: Hey lech mona almanos shetachzireuli. Here you take a mona, a certain amount of money, on the understanding that you're going to return it to me. Says Rava, b'mecher loikana. Vis-a-vis commercial transactions, it doesn't work. Doesn't work. Be'isha Kiddushin eina mekudeshes. B'pidyon haben ein b'noi podui. If you give the kohen the 5 sloim almanos, that you have to give it back, it's not even a podi. Betruma yotza yidei nesina. Truma might be different. Okay, fine. Says the Gemara. 1 second, I don't understand. Says the Gemara. Ikosova. What does Rava hold? If he holds matana almanos lahachzir is a matana, then it should work with all of them. And if he holds it's not loishma matana, then truma, or it shouldn't work with truma either. Furthermore, we find, as the Gemara, we actually find that Rava is the one that says matana almanos lahachzir does work. How can we have here a statement of Rava? The Gemara asks a contradiction in Rava's opinion. Because we seemingly, okay, there's a bit of an internal contradiction as to why he says Truma is different, but Rava here seems to say that with Mecher, with Kiddushin, with Pidyon Ben, that Matana al-Manos lahachzir doesn't work. But there is another Gemara where Rava tells us with Arba Minim, Rava says as follows, Heilech esrog zeh al-Manos shetachzirehu li. You give somebody your lulav and esrog and you say, I'm giving it to you as a matana on the express understanding that you're going to give it back to me. Yotza. You are Yotza. So I don't understand. Make up your mind. Is matana al-manos lahachzir isn't good matana? No, it's not a good matana. What's going on? Says Rav Ashi as follows. Says Rav Ashi, matana al-manos lahachzir is a good kinyan. Generally speaking, it's a good kinyan. Levar me isha, except for Kiddushin. And here he says as follows. Lefi she'ein isha niknis b'chalipin. Right? Ein isha niknis b'chalipin. A woman, you can't be kind of a woman with chalipin. Now hold on a second. What's going on over here? Again.
He degrades matan to chalipin.
Oh, very good. So this is what we need to drill down to understand a little bit. Rav Ashi, who we paskin like, right? Says that Rava's opinion is matana al-manos lahachzir works, generally speaking. Okay? It works. Matana al-manos lahachzir works, but not with Kiddushin. Why not? And he gives a reason. He says, the Loshen, because l'fisha ein isha niknis b'chalipin. Now, and like we saw in the Gemara in Daf Gimel, the problem is, what is it? There's two ways, there's a big machlokes rishonim how to understand this Gemara, which is going to have big implications for us. Because, let's be clear, matana al-manos lahachzir means, I am giving you something, and it is, if you consider it to be an absolute giving, then it's good, it's an absolute giving, it's a matana. The fact that I create a condition that you have to give it back to me doesn't stop it being a matana. Rav Ashi says that is Rava's opinion. How we square it with Mecher and Pidyon Ben, leave that aside for the moment, okay? But all we need to deal with is as follows. This is how we paskin like Rav Ashi, who holds that Rava's opinion is that matana al-manos lahachzir is a matana. So then why doesn't it work in Kiddushin? Because a woman isn't mekadosh herself with chalipin. Now, what is he saying? Is he saying that matana al-manos lahachzir is chalipin? It isn't. Chalipin is not the same as matana al-manos lahachzir, is it? Chalipin is, I give you a suda, and you are makne something. Yourself, you're mechayev yourself in something. Matana al-manos lahachzir is, I give you it, and you give it back. So what
maybe it's
is...
some case of chalipin.
So what, sorry?
Maybe it's just a specific case of chalipin.
It doesn't say that. It says matana al-manos lahachzir.
So it must have to do something with the word, no? We say that if he says that he doesn't want to speak directly about chalipin, but he says that maybe the fact that it has an almanat attribute to it makes it less worth.
I don't understand what you're saying. What's the question we're trying to answer? The question we're trying to answer is that Rav Ashi, in understanding Rava, is saying that the reason that matana al-manos lahachzir does not work, even though Rava's opinion is matana al-manos lahachzir is a matana, is because Kiddushin is somehow different, because Kiddushin, because Kiddushin, in Kiddushin, chalipin does not work.
Right,
so he's connecting somehow matana al-manos lahachzir to chalipin. How? They're two very different things.
I disagree.
With the
Rega.
Must be with the word.
But matana al-manos lahachzir is not chalipin. They're two different things.
Right, but if...
While you're thinking about it, yes?
I think there's a very good case to make
that
matana al-manos lahachzir is a sub-case of chalipin, a specific type of chalipin.
Okay.
Because chalipin, as you defined it, is I give something, I demand something in return. Yes? So if I would say, I'll give you now.
Oh, by the way, we always do that. Hariat mekudeshesli, amanos. Hariat mekudeshesli b'tamazu. I give you a ring, and you are makna yourself. So you have to make a better case. In every situation here that we have, in the Kiddushin, there is an exchange. You give a woman a ring, and she is makna herself.
Yes, but the problem is here that she's not makna herself only, but she's giving something back, something physical, this thing item back. If you would say to a woman, here I give you the air conditioner, and you give me $400 for it, and by the way, you also Mekaidesh, yeah, that might not work. It's just a regular sale, yes. If she's giving something back, yes, we had the whole thing. Even if the
Okay.
400 euros are
So sharpen your thinking. You're almost there. You're almost there.
So I think maybe matanas lahazir means it is you are giving the thing back. Actually, the woman is giving something back. Yes, and by obligating her, because it's not a giving from the male to the female, it's exchange, and matanas.
Okay, I think if I've understood what you're saying, I think what you're saying.
Case of Chalipim. I think matanas are
Okay, that we're going to have to see. Okay, so here's the machlokes. Rishonim. Tosfos and the Rosh understand that really matana almanos lahachzir is a matana. B'chol haTorah kula, and if it is a matana, then it works for Kiddushin as well. But it looks like Chalipin. It's doimet to Chalipin. It looks like Chalipin. And the Royim, also there's a chashash that those who see what's going on, matana almanos lahachzir, he gives her a ring, she's Hariat mekudeshesli. He says it's a matana almanos lahachzir. Maybe people who are watching don't hear or see that bit of it, and 2 minutes later she gives him the ring back. And people will say, you can be mekadosh with Chalipin. They're not the same thing. Lahalocha, this is how Tosfos and the Rosh understand. Lahalocha, they're not the same thing. Because we paskin in Kol HaTorah Kula that matana almanos lahachzir is a matana. You give somebody an esrog, matana almanos lahachzir, it is lochem. It's his. It's his totally. It works. And really min HaTorah, in other words, she is mekudeshes. But the Chachamim utilized their powers. Because we say Kedas Moshe Yisrael, they are mafkia the Kiddushin. They say that Kiddushin with matana almanos lahachzir, we are not going to allow it to work. We're going to use our powers because of its similarity. Externally, it looks like Chalipin, and people could easily make a mistake, and therefore, because it looks like a Kinyan Sudar, therefore we're going to say it's not going to work, even though in our Torah it actually does work. That is the opinion of Tosfos and the Rosh. The Rambam says, no. The Rambam says differently. The Rambam holds that Me'ikah Hadin, it doesn't work. Me'ikah Hadin, there is no Kiddushin, because she doesn't get any Hana, and she does not, ultimately, she does not receive anything, ultimately. And therefore, she is not makna herself in the same way that she won't be makna herself by Chalipin. He comes at this, let's absorb the Shittas HaRambam. Shittas HaRambam is that Midairaisa, it doesn't work. Massive difference between the Tosfos and the Rosh and the Rambam. According to Tosfos and Rosh, Me'ikah Hadin, Midairaisa, it would work, but because of its similarity to Chalipin, Chazal decided to be mafkir the Kiddushin. Midrabanan, they were mafkir the Kiddushin. The Rambam says, no, you don't need the Chachamim to invoke their powers, because even though matana almanos lahachzir is a matana, but a woman will say to her, and for the same reason that Chalipin works in other areas, but it doesn't work with Kiddushin, because it's pachos mishava pruta, so she won't focus, she won't have the kavanah, she won't agree ultimately to being mekadosh herself. And the same thing with matana almanos lahachzir, a woman will not be makna herself for that. She's not receiving anything, she's got to give it back, and therefore that's why it doesn't work. Okay, and therefore Shaila we're going to have to look at. We're going to see how the Mechaber paskins and whether you're going to need to get, etc., etc. Those are the baseline the basic ideas. Yes, Chevra.
Question: what is? I don't get the differentiation between להחזיר and a tanai.
It is a tanai. It is a tanai. Of course, it's a tanai.
But then you said, but the tanai is what? You just say
Almanos lahachzir.
But so then you say, I give you this gift, right? And you say, להחזיר.
Almanos lahachzir.
So if she, in this moment, plans not to give it back, it's not a gift.
It's not about what she plans.
Okay, but like
It's not. It's actually not about. It's irrelevant what she
But
plans.
the tanai is, as far as I understand, the tanai is always like, if this, then that. So
I am only giving it to you as a matana on the express understanding that you're going to give it back to me.
And if she, okay.
And even if now,
she says no, like
if she says no, what? No, I'm not going to give it back to you.
Yeah.
Then of course, then there's nothing to talk about.
okay, so that's the.
It's then there's nothing to talk about. We're talking about where she's makabel the matana amanos lahachzir. Yes, okay, I understand. It's a matana amanos lahachzir. Say Chazal, says the Rambam. No, she's not going to be makna herself for something. She wants to at least be able to feel she's getting something. She's not. Now it could be even though me'ika hadin minat Torah esrog. It's yours. Now we need to understand what I haven't done with you yet, which is a bit, which we're going to really. That's why I feel you can't really learn this sugi without the lamdas. You have to really understand what would happen, for example, if you. Here's an interesting shaila. I'll just throw this because we unfortunately don't have much time today. It's a short shiur. But here's an intro, and there's a ketzos, one of the classic ketzos on Reish Mem Aleph, Rabbi Avigdor Kohen Tzedek, which we'll get to because it's so. You need to have this in your back pocket as a Ben Torah anyway. You need to know this ketzos. Here's an interesting question for you. At the end of the time period, when we say matana amanos lahachzir, forget kiddushin, another case, right? Mecha, anything, any other case. Matana amanos lahachzir is a matana, right?
30 days. Whatever.
30 days, right? It will. The matana, you have to give it back to me within 30 days, and the guy says, "Yeah, fine, no problem." Within this, and when the 30 days time is up, does it require a new kinyan to go back to the original owner, or does it happen automatically? It's a machlokes rishonim. I'm trying to make you understand. We need to really. There's no way we can really get to grips with this halacha without drilling down and understanding what this is. Is this just a kinyan for the use of the item for 30 days? Is it a shiur in the kinyan? Shiur shin yud vav reish. Is it a retention? Do you retain some rights, or is it absolute and then it reverts? Can you be makdish it in the between time? Etc., etc. Yeah, and this is in order for before we go further, we're going to have to really deal with an understanding of what matana amanos lahachzir is. Look at the different shittas in the Rishonim and see how this plays in here, because there's going to be lots of interesting cases. But just so that we learn something inside today, let's do the Sif Aleph, at least, or part of Sif Aleph. Ha'omer leisha hareat mekudeshes li bedinar zeh al menos shetachazirehu li eina mekudeshes. Shulchan Aruch paskins very clearly, Eina Mekudeshes. No, don't say like the Rambam. Why not like the Rambam? Because the Rosh and Tosfos also agree Eina Mekudeshes. The Gemara says, Rav Ashi says. The question is how to understand how do we get there. Is it because, according to the Tosfos and the Rosh, the pshat is that really Minat Torah it should work, because Matana Amanos Lahachzir B'chol HaTorah Kula works, but because of its similarity to Chalipin, Chazal would mafkia the Kiddushin so that it doesn't work. According to the Rambam, it doesn't work for the same reason that Chalipin doesn't work. It's not like Chalipin at all. It's got nothing to do with Chalipin. But it doesn't work because of Minat Torah, because of its similarity to Chalipin. Chalipin, because a woman would not be makna herself for less than a shava pruta. In the case of matana amanos lahachzir, the woman thinks, possibly correctly, I am not ending up with anything fundamental at the end of the day anyway, and therefore she will not be makna herself. And for that reason, it's not mukadeshes. And tomorrow we will go into more detail.